Welcome everyone to our webinar today, Stop the Boring and Mundane Business Processes. I don't know about you, but I would love to alleviate a lot of those manual, time-consuming tasks that we all do on a day-to-day basis and just make our lives a lot easier, whether it's in your ERP, even at home. I think we could all benefit from doing these boring, mundane processes. So I'm excited to have our three presenters today. We have Zubin from Dynamic Budgets, Adam from WebSAN Solutions, and Jared from Use. They will be showing you how to stop those boring and mundane business processes. As you know, this is being recorded, and I will be sending out the recording at in a day or two, so stay tuned for that as well. And just to go over a little bit about the agenda, we have Dynamic Budgets, and then this is our lineup. So Dynamic Budgets, WebSAN, and Use, and they'll show a little bit about the different areas that you can stop the boring and mundane processes in Dynamics 365 Business Central. So let's get started. Zubin, you are up first. So I will stop sharing my screen. I will launch a poll, and we can let you start sharing your screen. So let us know if you're budgeting in Excel. We would love to know if you're doing that right now. Because if you are, Zubin's going to help make your life easier.
Yeah, I just want to get a little perspective as to how many people out there may be still budgeting in Excel. Do we get to see the results?
We had one. Sorry, I got rid of it before I could share it. There was one. And then I can share the results. Here we go. So we have one person that's saying it so far, and maybe there's more and they just don't want to admit
it. It's okay.
and then why are you or your customers budgeting in Excel? You like chaos. I really like that one, Zubin.
Yeah, I like the job security it offers. No one understands the process, and they couldn't manage this without me. I've been in that position before. It's kind of fun. Managers want the freedom to do anything they want in their own Excel spreadsheet and then submit that to corporate. And then corporate has to figure out what they did. I'm sick and tired of the chaos. I'd love a better approach. Let's talk. Or I'm not sure how my customers are doing their budgets if you're a partner. I just know they somehow uploaded into the system. We hear that from a lot of our partners. I don't realize we had two more options.
Yeah, I was like, I forgot there was two more options. But
here's job security.
Sorry.
Alrighty. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen. And I'm going to forego the PowerPoint slides to spare you that. My name is Zubin Gidwani. I'm the founder of Dynamic Budgets. About 10, 12 years ago, I was in your shoes. I was the financial systems manager and assistant controller for a public traded company. We had 5 separate entities. Had an accounting team of about 20, 30 accountants, 5 financial analysts, and they all turned to me as the corporate magician who would create their budget templates, send those out to the managers, and then wait for the chaos to erupt. We used to budget in Excel, and generating 600 templates would take about 3 weeks to generate the templates, populate those with a couple of years of historical financials, and then hit the publish button and email those out to all the individual managers. And then they would have the ridiculous request of, can you show me this year or last year's transactions? That was a whole nother data set to go fetch. And then the executives would ask absurd questions like, I don't like the numbers, get everybody to recast the financials and get back to us on Wednesday. And I would just laugh, like, okay, they'll get them back to me by Wednesday, but I'll need 3 hard days of processing time. And you might get them on Friday if I pull all-nighters. I used to work for the Kapalua Resort. They put me up in a nice condo right there on the resort, but I was pulling all-nighters on the resort just to get the numbers done. What I'm showing you on my screen, hopefully everyone sees an Excel spreadsheet. Amy?
Yes, it looks good.
Yeah, it certainly does look, doesn't it? So I have changed the numbers and I've changed the names to present those that are presumed to be innocent. This is an actual template that one of our new customers was using, and they said, "Can you please backfill our 23 budget data into your new software?" And I thought that was an innocent request until I looked at their templates. So in this template, in column K is the 2023 budget total. And they have a upper left section, which is the summation, basically the budget, the worst case scenario, best case scenario. And then they had a couple of years of comparisons, all seemed relatively innocent. And then I went over here to the right side and they had the monthly distribution. So this is at the top of the screen is the summation of what was supposed to be the details that were in the bottom. So they had a nice template with about 10 line items of details for every single account number. And I thought, oh, great. So I'll just go ahead and start copying all the bottom line items and import the details in. Then I started to look at the fact that their account numbers were only on the first 20 line items, and none of the detail lines had the account numbers. So I had to go through acrobatics and Excel formulas and using XLOOKUP to figure out what number should go on which line item. And then I had to jump through and try to figure out how I had to identify the total lines and ignore the totals. More acrobatics in Excel with nested if statements and all that jazz. That took me a couple of hours to kind of perfect and get this down pat, just such I could even append the account numbers and exclude the totals and get that ready to copy and paste. Then I made the mistake of asking, does this left total number match the values, the sum of the totals over here on the right? And I came over here and I summed up the January through December, got 400,000 at the bottom here, and scrolled over to the left and saw 500,000. Went, which one's right? The number on the left or the number on the right? Then I just happened to say, well, let's just go down to the details. And I saw $500,000 in the details here. I saw a math formula: 1 times 1 times 450,000 equals 500,000. Like, okay, the left side's not even totaling up. And then I went over here to the right side, and that wasn't totaling up. I didn't know which of the 4 quadrants to trust. Top summary section total, top summary section months, bottom details are bottom totals. Well, okay, let's go look at control tilde on my Excel formulas and see all my values in the formulas. And I scroll down to the detail line item section of it. Why are there total lines flat numbers and why aren't those sum formulas? And those are just comical. And so for those of you who responded, the departments love the freedom to use Excel and design whatever sheets they want. Yes, they can, but they can also butcher those templates. So I went back to the CFO and I said, so what happened to your template? And he said, I don't know. These were some formulas when I sent them out. I don't know why they flattened the numbers. These were originally tied to the subtotals of each one of these lower sections. All of a sudden now these are flat numbers. So it's like they did a copy paste special values on the entire worksheet before they sent it back to corporate. Pretty infuriating when you spend all this time and effort building out a worksheet and all of a sudden the numbers are corrupted, the formulas are stripped away, and you don't know what's to trust. So I didn't even know what to load. So that's just kind of long story short. Yes, some people like budgeting in Excel. I think Excel is a dirty word. I do not like Excel just because you can have what you thought was a locked or template, what you thought was a locked row or locked cell, and I would somehow get responses back from my operations where this might be a completely different number. This might have come back with the travel account 5810 for department 1000 -24. Like, how in the world did you grab department 24's travel account and stick it in your template? it's a locked template. That's not possible, but magically they did. So um, we don't like Excel. If you're a small organization, it gives you the flexibility, but I've worked with organizations that have anywhere from 500 to 1,000 departments. Largest customer of ours is 26,000 cost centers. And we needed a solution that was pretty much bulletproof that you could roll out to the organization and let them just run with it. So I'm going to flip over and show you a quick software demo on our side. With Dynamic Budgets is a budgeting solution. It's a third-party standalone solution that integrates with Business Central, also with Acumatica intact. Our legacy was with Dynamics GP and Navision. We have the ability we're using Azure Data Factory, and we typically will do a nightly sync with Business Central. And we can also give you a sync now button. So in case you push some transactions through and you need to immediately see those in the reports, you can do so. Typically, we have multiple entry points into the product. We have basic 12-month entry forms. We can build a starting point that feels like a financial report with multiple years of history and things. But what we're trying to do is give the manager the ability to come in here, search by their departments. They would have a listing of departments that are specific to them, only what they have security permissions to see. They would bring up their department on screen. When you're working with the dimensions in Business Central, we can concatenate some of the dimensions to be a virtual sort of organizational unit or a department code. But we can also have additional columns here on screen for optional dimensions. So if you have a grant, a project, a location, a project number, if you want to have those on here as well, we can have those on. Ideally, they're going to look at some historical perspective and then decide that they're ready to go ahead and enter their values for next year. They could come into this cell, click into that cell and enter a number, or they could go ahead and click on the blue account number and provide some itemized detail. So we have some customers that are just still collecting an annual budget, but most of our customers are encouraging their end users to drill down and input the line item expenses. So if I was looking at my training expense, I might have CPR, I might have leadership development, and I might have the offsite for management. So in here, I might have CPR training, $500 a month. We bring in the trainer and they use our defibrillator training equipment, and they just show our staff. Leadership development, we're going to do a $2,500 seminar in April. And then the offsite management and retreat, we're going to do a $12,000 expense out in July and go offsite to that resort and do a full day training. We are acting as the sub ledger for this detail. You don't have the ability to record that detail in Business Central. You can record account values by month and import that in from Excel, but you don't really have a place to store the line item details per each account in Business Central. We've built what we feel is a pretty bulletproof interface that the end users have very little that they can break. It feels like Excel, so I could copy and paste a value. I could copy that and paste it into a range of cells. It feels like Excel. If they wanted to use a spreading function, so if they said, you know what, I'm going to spend $50,000 this year, and I want to spread this evenly, I want to spread this evenly on a monthly basis. And the program will automatically do the math for them. They don't have to understand the math. But we can also get fancier and say, you know what, let's have you make a business decision. Are you going to spend this the way you spent it back in 2022? No, we are still recovering from COVID. Let's peg this back on the fiscal year 2020 actuals. And that was a better judge of when we spent the money, and it happened to be all in 1 month in the month of January. The end user did not need to know how to prorate that, or if we had to go into a different budget. If I grab my 2022 budget, might be a little more exciting. We've got some strange prorated distribution of the expenses across the months. you're now having a business conversation. Should I spread it on year X or year Y? Which is more going to accurately approximate how you think you'll spend the money or receive the income next year? So we can get a lot fancier, but basically they're entering the budget details in the middle of the screen. At the bottom of the screen, we show them the history of the account to give them perspective. If you're requesting $100,000 next year and you've never spent more than $30,000, someone's going to question why you're doing that. If you want to know why you spent $1,500 last January, you can click into January and see the transaction details coming right out of the BC. We've got the vendor ID, vendor name, and I don't have it displayed here, but we actually have a record link to be able to drill back into the transaction in Business Central from this application. So this is just kind of a quick nutshell description of how you could enter the data. We have a couple layers deeper. You can actually go in and click a magnifying glass, look up to see how much you spent in the prior year, but you can also look back at your vendor level spend within your department. So if I want to look and see how much I spent on, or how much money I received from my customers, or how much I spent with each of my vendors, this will give you your summarized expenses by vendor by month that you could use to import into your financial budget for next year. So we have customers using binary stream property management. They wanted to look up their lease schedules and bring that data over into the system for the GL budgets. Various different types of data feeds that we could interact with to be able to integrate that into the core budgeting experience. When you're done with your budgets, we want you to be able to come back in here, run a budget to actual variance report. We come in here and pick your department, pick your month, hit search. Has the ability to come in here and show a comparison between budget and actual. And my data is a little bit whacked right now, so my demo system is not being cooperative, but ideally they would look at their budget to actual and then drop in an explanation as to why they were over under for the month, how's that can impact them the rest of the year, and should they do something different the next year. If those comments accumulate here in the system, when they go to budget the account next year, that's available right here at their fingertips. As they're scratching their head, if I go out to my account 6180, we spend a lot of time trying to protect the users from themselves. So if they're about to lose data on the screen, we prompt them to hit save. And as they're scratching their head to try to figure out what they're going to budget for rent next year, they've got the blank slate here. They can actually look at the bottom and say, did I leave myself any comments? And we came in here $500 over budget due to an incorrect invoice, not a big deal, but rent is going to be $2K over because we rented an additional floor on the floor too. So what we like to see is them coming in, making their budgets round one, do a forecast mid-year, analyze their budget to actual variances throughout the year, annotate those such that the financial analyst can turn to a central location and find their explanations. But then those explanations are not only available to corporate for upwards reporting to the executives, but they're also functional comments that come back in and can help the manager make a better decision next year. So we've got a lot more layers we can peel through in a demo. If you're interested, feel free to contact us. We have a very dedicated payroll menu, allocations, duplicate budget utilities, import, export utilities, things like that. Whole custom worksheet functionality that simulates kind of a dumbed down version of Excel. So really kind of think of us as that sub ledger to put a lot more detail into the budgets, what you can do in Business Central, all outside the system, synced to Business Central, but a nice standalone tool to complement your efforts. We've got another vendor today that's going to be walking through sales forecast and demand planning. We are primarily just a GL budgeting tool. When they're looking at the demand planning and forecasting, really apples and oranges, not really competitive. We're more probably complementary in that sense. So I'll turn that over to our next presenters.
Thanks, Dubin. I can see how you can definitely make things a lot easier going from Excel to your budgeting tool. I looking at that Excel spreadsheet, I had a headache. I don't know how you figure
Imagine
it
my
all
headache
out.
when he said, "Can you please load this for me?" It's like, why can't you? I'm providing the software.
That's crazy. All right.
Yeah,
Well, Adam, you're up. So I will launch this poll while you start sharing your screen to go
Perfect.
over the sales side and forecasting side of things.
Yeah, so can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So just before I get started, just a little bit about WebSan. We're located in both Canada and the US, and we have a team of over 50 professionals, primarily focusing on Business Central and other ancillary offerings, one of which I'll talk to you about today. Been in business since 2000 and have won, as you can see from the screen, numerous awards in the Business Central space. So what I want to talk about today, Zubin alluded to a little bit, and that was the sales and operations planning process. So I want to take just a couple minutes to talk about what that process is, and then we'll go into Business Central and take a look. So a lot of people can comprehend or appreciate just the demand planning process, and that's where I'd like to start this conversation. In that, a lot of companies have a financial planning, a sales planning, a demand planning process, a procurement process, but they're not always linked or talking to one another, and that's where our application comes in, and that's where sales and operations planning processes in general come in. So when you think about your demand plan, you're going over, okay, what type of demand do we have for our product over a particular time period? But then you got to start peeling back the layers and saying, okay, well, how does that impact our supply? And do we have the resources, the materials, labor, equipment in order to meet that supply or meet that demand with our supply? Have we purchased enough goods? What about the expected lead times and capacity restraints that suppliers might have when they're selling us those goods? What about their capacity and resource constraints do we have on our own side if we're producing those goods? From a sales side of things, have we executed or put in place the right strategy and sales goals for our sales team that then aligns with all of the above? And then last but not least, financially, do we have the proper cash flow, the proper financial budgets in place to achieve all these goals from a sales perspective? So sales and operations planning, you can see here, it's cyclical in nature. And so like I end up on the financials, and what we often see is the forecasts that are in the boardroom don't necessarily meet what's in the operations. And so we have to make sure operations, financial, sales, procurement, production, manufacturing are all talking to one another and all working off the same information. And so this is a cyclical process wherein we're bringing all parties together in a systematic way. It repeats itself, so it's constantly occurring on a periodic basis, and it just ensures that those budgets and the numbers that all the teams are working with are the same, quite frankly. So if we just take that down to an industry perspective, you can see from a manufacturing side of things, if you are managing all of those details together, you can easily or more easily balance your production schedule, reduce inventory costs, improve on-time delivery. We often see cases where, you might have, call it 95% fulfillment rate, and just to get to the 97, 98, 99 level, it's not financially feasible. The incremental cost of delivering that extra percentage or two of fulfillment is just exponential. So you've got to find the right balance there. Retail is another good one. It makes sure you optimize your inventory levels for seasonality. Often retail has very huge swings in seasonality, and so therefore you're going to reduce your stock outs or potentially overstocking in a lot of cases. So you, in this case, again, with retail, you're ensuring that you're not incurring excess costs to hold excess inventory to meet demand. Distributors, by ensuring you have a S&OP process, you're mitigating potential supplier challenges. because they have their own delivery schedules, they have their own needs as well. You might have suppliers that, quite frankly, are unreliable, and therefore this recurring conversation that you're going to have as part of your sales and operations planning process will lead you to, okay, well, do we take more safety stock? Do we have backup suppliers? Do we use another supplier altogether? So this helps you coordinate with all those suppliers, helps you coordinate with your customers, reduces potential lead times, just improves your reliability overall. A lot of our suppliers sell to big box stores like the Home Depots, Lowe's, you name it. Some of those people are selling on consignment. Some of them are selling to a distribution center or shipping to a distribution center. And those distribution centers are then sending the goods to the individual stores. So there's safety requirements potentially at the store, at the distribution center, and you want to make sure that you have alignment with all those different groups, because those are very complex supply chains. The last one I'd like to talk about is tech, and this actually correlates well with fashion brands as well. Like, tech has a very short product life cycle, where demand can be really high, and then the demand can really fall off quickly in a lot of cases. So a proper sales and operations planning process will manage your product portfolio, ensuring you're delivering the goods when they're needed, and then it's reducing the risk of having a lot of excess goods when those goods are, quite frankly, obsolete, no longer in demand by the market. So a lot of, or what we see at least, a lot of folks are doing this via Excel, and I know Zubin talked about that in his presentation as well. And it's kind of sad but true, but it is often in Excel, and so what that's leading to is a lack of coordination amongst teams, and just, quite frankly, a lot of inefficient scheduling of the different groups. From an inventory side, poor management, maybe inconsistent forecasting, or, quite frankly, inability to respond to client demands or sales demands. So therefore, you're missing out on sales revenue. You have stockouts, or potentially overstocking goods when you don't need them. So overall, increasing costs, lowering your profitability, and so that's why it's important to have a sales and operations planning process. So what we've done is we've embedded a sales and operations planning process right into Dynamics Business Central. So we've got an application that I'll dive into in a minute here. What it ensures is you have that recurring conversation among the groups baked into your process, baked directly into Business Central. And sometimes we joke that budgets are always wrong, but by consistently reviewing your forecast, by consistently having that conversation, you're ensuring you can adjust your operations as appropriate. So I mentioned earlier, potentially looking at different suppliers, potentially lowering your fulfillment rates, whatever the case would be, but trying to optimize your financial performance at the end of the day. So we try to eliminate that struggle and that conflict between finance, procurement, operations, sales, again, by having that embedded within the system. And you can see here, I put a cross-functional team on a regular cadence. You want to make sure that all those teams are meeting on a regular cadence and reviewing these numbers such that you are eliminating those struggles. And so I'm going to jump into the app next, but I wanted to walk you through exactly what our app does. So as part of the sales and operations planning process, we take your actual sales and your performance. So we load it into a history table. And this also helps for people that are new to Business Central as well, because we can load that data from your legacy ERP system, whether it be Dynamics GP, Navision, whatever the case would be. So we load that into a history table. We can then apply projections to a sales budget automatically. If you don't want to use that, you can upload your sales budgets via Excel as well. Now, all that data then feeds in to your demand forecast. And from there, that's where your procurement and your production teams are then working from. So you're making buying decisions, you're making production decisions based on that demand forecast. So that's feeding your production schedule and your buying process. From there, we've got a series of dashboards, financial dashboards, performance dashboards built into the system. They all use Power BI, which is pretty standard. so you can keep having that recurring, ongoing conversation about how did we do this month versus last, and continuing that improvement. And again, that all then feeds back into your performance, which then each month loads into history and then keeps feeding that budgeting process over and over and over again to improve performance. So I'm going to quickly dive into the system here. So in Business Central, I'm in my sales budgeting window here. And what we've done as part of the application is we've added links to other areas of the system. So you can see here, I've linked this sales budget to a demand forecast. Now, they have a lot of overlapping information, but a sales budget is at a higher level. So it's got customer information. It's got other information that a demand forecast doesn't necessarily have. And if I just make it a little bit easier here, I'm going to filter this for one particular item. Perfect. So I've got one item here. It's just a simple desk chair. But you can see at the top of the window, I've got options to import and export templates from Excel, and we've got a couple of different templates. I can sync this to my demand forecast, which I'll show you in a second. I can apply historical projections. And so I can select start and end dates for what would be an accurate representation of what I'm trying to build my sales budget based on. I can even quickly drill into my historical sales data. And you can see here, I've literally got by day, by customer, by item, by location, the quantities and amounts here that we store. I can enter adjustments, and these are just simple positive and negative adjustments based on whatever filters I have in my system. And we can add descriptions in those, so we can have an update log. So we can always track who made what updates. But you can quickly see here, I've got 180 in my sales budget. If I sync that to my demand forecast, just gives me a quick warning, and I click OK. And it says it's been synced. So here, if I go back to my 2023 demand forecast, I should be able to quickly pull up that same item. Perfect. And you can see here, same period, same item, 180 has been synced within there. And so we can constantly be synchronizing that data, pulling data from our historicals, reprojecting actuals, synchronizing it down. And from here, those that are familiar with Business Central, you would be using this within, like I said, your MRP process in order to build your production schedule, in order to purchase the necessary goods to meet that demand. So it's a cyclical process we've built in to the system. Like I said, this comes with a standard batch of reports as well that literally plug and play into your system, give you those standard KPIs that you're going to need to achieve your goals. That's the entire process. If you are interested, please feel free to reach out to our team, info@websan.com. That's WEBSAN.com, and we'd be happy to help you out. Amy, back to you.
Thanks, Adam. And we'll include all of this contact information in the follow-up email as well. So don't worry about that. If you do, I forgot to mention, if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar, which is at the bottom, I believe, for you guys. And again, I know someone asked for an email address. So yes, we will send out all that information to you in the recording email. So with that, I'm going to pass the reins over to Jared at Use. So you're up, and I'm going to launch your poll. All right.
All right. Can everybody hear me?
You sound, yes, loud and clear.
Yep, we can hear you, Jared.
Perfect. Thanks, Adam. I think Amy was kind of glitching for me, so I wasn't sure if that was just me or if that was on her side. Got worried for a second there. So, hey, my name is Jared Moss. We're going to be talking about use and how we eliminate the boring, mundane, and manual processes in your AP departments. So, first, a little bit about me. I'm the Central Region Head of Sales here at Use. I've helped numerous businesses streamline and automate their entire AP process by lowering those processing times. We have customized workflows, easy to use invoice and payment workflows as well. And I've actually spent 21 years before I came here to use in the IT technology space, working for resellers like Insight and Zones. So a lot of experience when it comes to Microsoft and pretty much every software application out there. And so I want to talk a little bit about Use as well. So Use was created in 2010. We were born in the cloud there, so about 13 years ago. We're actually a spinoff of a world-class AP on-premise automation tool that's been around for about 30 years. So we have a ton of experience when it comes to the actual AP automation space. Back in 2010, our founder was looking around, and really the only options available in the market were complex and rather expensive on-premise solutions to do AP automation. And so he came up with the idea of creating a cloud-based solution so that everything can be handled remotely, which means it would be easier to implement for the customers. It's more adaptable, and then it's more scalable because it's based on volume of documents that the client processes per month. Now, this concept has become widely appreciated, and I'm sure if you've ever talked to an AP automation solution out there, they're essentially kind of following down the same line that we handle our solution. Now, our solution has opened up the door to companies in all industries and all sizes to take advantage of powerful AP automation. Again, regardless of that size, Use has always felt that AP automation should be available to every client, whether you're one of the smaller clients out there, one of the largest ones. Now, we've worked very hard over the years to become experts in our sector, and we've committed to one main focus, which is document automation. We actually invest a quarter of our revenue right back into our product, ensuring we're always the best solution out there. We don't ever want to remain stagnant. And our team of researchers and scientists, they work on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and optical character recognition, and they're actually PhD employees, right? So they do scientific publications, not about Use, but about AI in itself. And so I want to talk more about what we actually do, right? So before we jump in, a quick overview of what we're going to talk about: manual processes that are out there, how you can cut costs by reducing these manual processes, the workplace environment, how it's changed over the last few years, having visibility into your AP department, the hiring process, and then CFO skills. So in the first area we're going to talk about is that manual process, that mundane, paper-heavy process of getting data into the systems. It's very time-consuming. It's very monotonous. Stacks of paper. We've actually talked to clients that would, based on their size, would have filing cabinets full of old invoices to literally truckfuls of documents that they've had because they're such a large client. And so with AP automation, you can take hours of that manual data entry and reduce it, which is a game changer for a few reasons. One, you can do more with less. As your business grows, more invoices are making their way into your AP department. You don't have to consider if your organization is scalable. We can take what you currently have and allow it to do much more. And then thanks to AI, smart data extraction, and workflow automation, the majority of that manual entry gets eliminated. The next point we talked about, the staff, I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to that they don't like having to do manual data entry. The technologies that we just talked about, because it can actually take, scan, and pull that data off automatically using AI, those fields get extracted and they get filled in for them. So then the staff can verify the information is correct, properly coded. And then rather than typing it themselves, they can just double check it. And with that extra time, they can then go be more productive, focus on higher level projects, giving them actual value in what they do, rather than just feeling like they're a cog in the system there. Another positive to minimizing manual processes is workflows. I can't tell you how many clients we talk to where they say how much time they spend just chasing down approvals and spending time trying to figure out, okay, what invoice, who does this go to? Who does this one go to? The technology that exists today, you can actually take, say, a small recurring monthly invoice that doesn't really require special attention. We can actually set those up with parameters to auto approve. And with customized workflows, you can also have technology route those invoices based on any criteria straight to the correct approver, and then they'll receive a notification that there's an approval waiting for them. So your team isn't chasing them down. And so, now we all know time is money, right? So The cost savings on the previous slide we talked about, what's about is that you can cut it up by up to 80% with P2P automation. The average cost of processing an invoice is about $13 because paper invoices and manual processing is costly, not only from a time and staff perspective, but from the logistics of physical invoices. When you have paper invoices, you're milling paper back and forth, which has an associated cost. I've actually talked to clients who send an employee from location to location to location, physically picking up the stacks of invoices to deliver back to corporate. So there's a lot of cost and risk associated with that. Now, if you have multiple locations, you're likely paying for that, multiple mailing transportation invoices by the end of the month. If you're not sending an employee, like if you have multi-state locations. And then according to Ardent Partners, that cost of $13 can really add up. And with that 80% that we can give you, you can use those funds elsewhere. On a side note, I think most everybody has heard of COVID. If you haven't, don't know where you've lived over the last few years, but there's been a shift in the workplace. In a recent survey, 1,500 finance professionals, that were reached out to, 96% of their organizations have embraced some form of remote or flexible working situations. And for most, the days in being in the office every day are gone, giving you more flexibility. It was also cited that one of the top ways organizations are attracting new talent and retaining their current staff are becoming increasingly difficult because if they don't have that that hybrid environment, a lot of newer employees aren't wanting to make those changes. So with a hybrid workforce, you need a program and system in place that can allow work to happen, in a variety of locations. With the wave of the hybrid remote work, on-premise software just isn't going to enable that. And you're seeing that with solutions becoming more and more cloud-based. Okay. One feature you should consider is mobility. Some cloud-based software solutions are accessible on mobile devices as well. You could make approvals on the go as well as at your desk or in the office, whatever your office is that day. And then, visibility, I think, is another big aspect to the AP prospect, because when, the mobility and agility aspect can be important, but the evolving workforce is looking for higher visibility. In the past, businesses often didn't have a clear picture of their status until month-end closing. And the process of invoices filling in all month and the big push at the end of the month made sure everything was important and balanced. It took a lot of time. You didn't really get a view of what was happening until it was all complete. Now, with P2P solutions, you can gain real-time visibility. It's much more manageable to upload invoices rather than key in each line, meaning that you can get them into the system faster. When they're in the system, you have a real-time picture of where everything is. You have a better view into your cash flow, what has been paid, what needs to be paid, and even how it may fit into that budget. With some AP automation platforms, your invoices can be coded and subtracted from your budgets for integration in multiple areas to give you, again, that insight into your cash flow position. And then on an individual level, it's great to see what needs to be done. With customized workflows, I mentioned previously, you can route invoices directly to the right approvers, and it moves it right into their to-do list. No need to go searching for what they actually need to accomplish. It's really easy for them to see that. And managers can gain visibility into what their team is doing and how they can view those invoices and where there's bottlenecks. So, while overall organizations may be gaining a clearer picture for their processes and data insights, one area that isn't crystal clear is in hiring. It's becoming increasingly difficult to find and retain financial talent. Overall, there is a shortage of financial talent, and over 50% of finance leaders are concerned or extremely concerned about this. Due to the shortage, potential employees are gaining more power in their job search process. With more opportunities arising for young professionals, many are seeking other professions, and finance skills are not easily transferable or something to quickly train new employees on, meaning there could be trouble for those searching to fill these specialized positions. Accounting candidates are wanting more from employers. They're looking for more fulfilling work, which that means, fewer monotonous tasks, more meaningful strategic projects. They're looking for flexible working environments, more either part-time to either hybrid or remote opportunities, and then more training opportunities as well. In a recent survey we conducted about technology in the workplace, we surveyed over 600 young professionals. 50% of them reported concern with the way their industry views adopting technology, citing it as an actual barrier for their career advancement. These needs from potential employees as well as current employees start with changes from the CFO and leadership. So with the changes in the workplace and workforce, we're also seeing a change in the needed skills of the CFO. In today's world, the CFO must be willing to embrace change and especially embrace technology to help usher in this change. Historically, the CFO has been very technical in a strictly finance orientation. But this year, the top 2 essential skills reported for CFOs were problem solving and communication. Compared to last year's survey, the importance of communication as a skill for a CFO has quadrupled, showing that emphasis and the rise in that skill. Overall, there is a push for a more well-rounded CFO. Part of this goes with the shifts in the workplaces and embracing technology to create a more meaningful work environment. Recently, many corporations have been hiring CFOs moving from other positions in non-financial areas and backgrounds. And the CFO here is the linchpin of all the other things I've mentioned today. It's their duty to usher in a new area of technology and initiatives in an ever-changing workforce. One great place to start making a change and enable all of the points I touched on is through AP automation. I told you a bit about our company and what I'm a part of earlier, but I want to just quickly walk you through our process to wrap it all up, okay? Use is an unmatched all-in-one solution for your entire P2P process. You can get your invoices captured, reviewed, approved, and paid anywhere, anytime in a single web-based solution. With the unique combination of smart data extraction, OCR, AI deep learning, and big data technologies, Use is able to automatically take care of a number of fraud preventions and detection steps, as I mentioned previously, for each and every invoice that comes in. There are a few standard duplicate detection rules put in place within the AP process within Use. The first one is at the beginning, the invoice capture step, where the invoice number is compared to all the other documents in your system for a duplicate. The second duplicate detection comes later in the approval process by checking for the invoice amount, date, and vendor name. With Use, you can go in and add additional filters or even duplicate detection rules to best fit your unique invoice process. Now, depending on the ERP or financial system you use, Use has 2- and 3-way matching capabilities to check purchase order information against invoice data and even goods received receipts. Again, this is all done automatically thanks to the unique combination of AI-powered machine and deep learning technologies in our AP automation platform. Every document that goes through the Use platform automatically tags a detailed document history to track every action taken on the document with a timestamp and user account information for a detailed audit history that you can easily access and review when you need it later. And finally, in the pay side of our process diagram on the screen, we complete the P2P process by automating even the payments within Use, thanks to our latest add-on called UsePay. All you need is one email address from your vendor to provide them with a secure and fast way to make payments for their invoices. Our cloud-based AP automation solution means that your entire purchase to payment process is protected by ironclad security while still remaining easily accessible when and where you need it, because you can use our solution from your desktop, laptop, or even a mobile device. So this is how you can contact us if you need us. If you want to book a demo, you can contact at us.getuse.com. We have our phone number and we have our website.
And we appreciate you joining us today. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye, Amy.
Bye.